trade agreements that we work on here in Canada on behalf of Canadian exporters, farmers, workers, businesses. We're always going to look for the best deal for Canadians. It's what we have always done, and this time is no different.
International Trade Minister, Mary Ng, reacting to some developing news here in Ottawa and across the pond. The UK has decided to walk away from trade talks with Canada. A statement from their High Commissioner to this country says, in part, we reserve the right to pause negotiations with any country if progress isn't being made. Canada and the UK inked an interim trade deal after Brexit, which kept the terms of the wider deal with the EU intact, but that was only meant to be a placeholder while this bilateral trade agreement was negotiated. The sticking points, it appears, cheese and beef. With us now to unpack the potential significance of this impasse, international trade lawyer Lawrence Herman. Mr. Herman, pleasure to have you here. Thanks for making the time.
You're welcome.
How significant is it, or how rare is it, for one party in a bilateral negotiation like this to just walk away?
Well, it happens from time to time, but when a good friend like the UK walks away, I think we could take it as a very serious matter. Indeed, it is very serious. It goes beyond the Canada-UK relationship, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But look, whatever the minister said, pretty difficult to penetrate that comment that she made. But whatever she said, when it comes right down to it, the issue is cheese. Or to put it a little more broadly, it's about the UK wanting greater access to the Canadian dairy sector, and Canada is not prepared to give an inch, or to put it another way, to give a gram or a milligram. And that is because we have a supply managed system that protects, you know about this, protects the dairy industry and the poultry industry, the egg sector. You've interviewed people about this many, many times, so it's no surprise. The UK has made it clear that they want access to the Canadian dairy sector, particularly for cheese, cheddar cheese, Stilton, other things. And Canada said, we are not going to give you one iota. And it's even worse than that. That would be okay as a starting point, as a policy, as a trade negotiating position. But the House of Commons passed unanimously, almost unanimously, a Bill C-282, which enshrines in law, makes it part of the law of Canada, that Canadian negotiators will not give one iota on the supply managed protected sector. That's what this is all about. And we can follow this a little bit. I'll tell you why it's serious, broader than the Canada-UK relationship. It involves our relationship with the Americans as well.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about that. Why?
Well,
because of the same tensions around supply management?
Well, the reason is, the Americans have made it clear that they're interested in greater access to Canada's dairy sector. The Canada-US-Mexico trade agreement, the CUSMA, comes up for review in 2026. I think the Americans are going to press Canada for increased access to the Canadian dairy sector. And Canada has a law now. By the way, I should say it's in the Senate. It hasn't been passed by the Senate. It may get out of the Senate, given royal assent. It was passed by the House. And Canada has a law, certainly has a policy, but will have a law in place that says, I'm sorry, access to the Canadian dairy sector, the Canadian supply managed sector, is off the table. I don't think that is likely to go down very well with the Americans. And I think we are heading for great difficulties. We're tying ourselves to a policy that is essentially a Soviet-style management, supply management system. We're tying ourselves to a policy, and that is prejudicing our trade relationships, not only with the UK, but with the US as well.
Do you see this as a sort of dramatic punctuation of that sentiment? And look, there's a lot of people who argue on behalf of supply management. There are obviously deep political considerations for every party on that issue, and there have been in the past. But do you think our adherence to it, will really remain a big impasse between the UK and Canada? By that, I mean, like, will it be hard to see a deal materialize if we continue to adhere to that position?
Well, I think it will be. And the political signals are very, very bad. Here is Canada unable to continue negotiations with a traditional trading partner, the United Kingdom, a Commonwealth member. Canada and the UK have had long-standing good relationships, and the UK has said we will not continue negotiating with Canada. And it is all about supply management. So it is disruptive of our relationship with the UK, and as I said, potentially very difficult in terms of Canada-US trade relations that are going to emerge front burner in a couple of years, less than a couple of years, with a new administration, whether it's Democrat or Republican, we don't know, but a new administration in Washington, and it is going to cause us further difficulties. It's tying us in a very serious way to a policy that puts us at a great disadvantage in terms of our trade relations with other countries.
Yeah, lots of ramifications. Mr. Herman, thank you very much for your analysis this evening.
You're welcome.
Lawrence Herman is an international trade lawyer and expert.